Good morning. Good morning. It is September 16th, 2025. It is Tuesday. Let's jump into these charts. Okay, so, excuse me. So, here's where we are. This is where we are right now. Okay? It is 8:40, around 8:40. The market hasn't opened yet, but yeah, looks like we're kind of making this golden pocket the strength. Surprise, surprise. Okay. Last we left off yesterday, I was talking about Bitcoin possibly moving down, and I had this plan, and the plan was the plan was that if it got lower, I had an area that I was going to shoot for. Somewhere around, I believe it was like somewhere around here, something like that. Okay. We haven't hit that area. Instead, what it looks like that's happening is we're starting to get this kind of pattern of strength. Okay. Now, we are on the 12-hour chart. So let's take a look at why I'm saying this might be strength. Well, we've got one touch, two touch, three touch, four touch, right? And now it looks like we're starting to go in a different direction. Okay. Now, also, something that I mentioned before is that you could start to see other patterns that might help you out to understand exactly what is happening. So, first and foremost, I was talking about yesterday of us being at the bottom of this range, right? And what we're looking for is we're looking for it to hook onto this 50% range. That's what we're looking for, right? But what it's doing is it's now accumulating between the golden pocket and the 50% range, right? And if you look closely, right? So if you look close at it, this can be defined as a flag, right? But let's not get too stuck on that idea right now. Because sometimes you could see flags where there really aren't any flags. What I'm going to do is we're going to look at this time frame. We're going to change the time frame. And we're going to look a little bit closer at what's happening here. We're going to look at the 1 hour time frame, right? And any without anything else, without any other information, we could see that there is a range that is forming. So let me mark out the range. I will grab the highs. Let's grab the highs right here. Actually, yeah, let's grab it like this. Okay, so this is the range, right? Let me change the color so we can see it a little bit more. Let's go like that. Okay, so this is the range that we're in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out a couple things real quick. First, let's go ahead and formate our range, right? So what this is I've got a bunch of touches that are happening here. We've got one touch, two touch, so that's valid. We've got one touch, two touch. I'm going to consider that three touch, four touch right there. So this line right here and this line is valid. Okay. So if we take a look at it now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to grab the top right there, and then I'm going to grab the bottom, just like so, right over here. All right. And let me label these. I'm going to label this long, and I'll label this short. Okay. And now I will color this out. Okay. So you can see exactly what it is. All right. Now, the idea of the flag is still there because we looked at a bigger time frame. But really what we are in right now is we're in a range. We're in a small range. It's a range inside of a bigger range, right? A smaller range inside of a bigger range. And what we could do is we can look at this and say, okay, well, what's happening here, right? So first of all, we got consolidation that's happening. Okay, consolidation. But then this came outside. Notice that it's outside of the break area. So I'm going to consider that manipulation, right? M. And then we should be coming to this other side then. And if we come over to this other side, we could possibly break out for another manipulation move, right? And then it is the real move. Okay? So we can look at it like that. And again, what I said was the middle of the range is hard to play. Let me just put a Fibonacci here, and let me mark out the 50% line here. And notice what's happening. At this 50% line, let me make it yellow, and let me make it thicker so we can take a look. If you take a look, the characteristics of the 50% line is still in play here, right? In this little range, we've got a rejection, we've got a rejection, we've got a rejection. And again, like it's trying to get over that 50%, but it hasn't really grasped it. Like each time, like it just kind of like it goes above and then it doesn't really touch it. Here we touched it, but it dropped a little bit lower, right? So this 50% line is playing a role here. All right. So what we need to do is we need to get on this other side in this mini range and pop up here. If not, then yeah, we're definitely going some lower, right? So this is how to look at it on a smaller time frame. If I zoom back out into the bigger time frame, you can see this looks like a flag. Okay, so like so. Now flags are bullish, right? But it doesn't mean that it has to stay within the flag. Notice that it popped out a little bit. And it can actually pop back down into this area right over here, into this little order block area. It can also kind of come down and touch this zone right over here. So even though it's a flag, it can have like a little bit of an anomaly, boop, and then come back over here and then do its thing. All right, so just because it's a flag doesn't mean that it's a stereotypical flag. You got to understand that there's noise patterns that are in this, right? And I mentioned this before. When I draw a line like this and it looks like this, right, as kind of a pattern, what I'm not telling you is the noise that goes in between, like all of this. Yeah, sure, it goes up, but it's, you know, actually it's more like this. I'm like drawing sideways as if we're going sideways. But this is really what the chart really looks like. There are ebbs and flows in everything. So when the chart is going up, it looks like this. When the chart is going sideways, it looks like this. And when it's going down, it's like a slide. It's always vibrating, right? So therefore, it's vibrating in here. Now, what I'm looking for in here is I'm looking for it to get above this 50% line, okay? And now we've got this other 50% line. What is this one? Oh, that was, I don't know where this came from. Where'd that come from? I think I did that by accident. Or maybe I labeled it. This is the 50% line. 50% line. Maybe I labeled that other one. Yeah. So in this small little range, that's what we're looking for, right? Because if it starts to move over, then we're looking for it to kind of like cup right over here. So it could bounce up here, come back here, this being the fake out, and then continue up, right? So that's what I'm looking for today. On the meantime, I did not add on to my long on here. Now, the difference, there's a difference between my Ethereum trade and my Bitcoin trade. I actually have a lot in here, and Bitcoin hasn't really moved as much as Ethereum did. So I didn't take too much profit off of this. So I have a really good amount down here. So if it moves up and it goes, then I'll be able to take some more profit, and I'm still in a good zone. If it does move down, again, like my plan is, regardless of what, my plan is over here. This is my plan, okay? Now, the other thing I want to bring out is, because that's my plan, I need to look left and see what's left, right? To the left side to see if there's anything that could possibly work within that zone. So for example, so if this is my long area right here, right, where it retests this change of character, like if I continue to look left, let me see what I see and see if there's any like candles that work. So these candles kind of work with this range here, but notice that there's this right over here, okay? And then there's this over here. What I would do is I would use these two as a reference for my stop. So my stop would be probably a little bit underneath here, underneath this one, right over here. So if I do add on to my long, what it would look like is it would move my DCA, and this would be my new position right here, where my stop is right here, just underneath here to take this guy out right there. So I would add more money in, and it would shift my whole position up, and this would be my new position, okay? Because I added on to it. So that's what I'm looking at, and that's my plan. Now, that's the thing that I didn't go over with you yesterday, was if this is a section that I'm looking at, where do I figure out where my stop is? And again, like what happens is you start seeing candles like this candle and this candle and this candle right there. And that gives you a good idea as to like, is the chart going, if someone took a long over here, would they be stopped out? Yes, by this candle right here. But if they took a long over here, would they have been stopped out? Yes, they would have been stopped out over here, right? But it's still a good reference from the past to say, okay, this area is probably where, you know, the stop would, you know, it would be hunting. It would probably be hunting over there. So let me try to get it. If we do break a little bit lower than here, then again, I feel that if we don't get any support over here, then we're going lower. So my idea is that we are going higher. So if it does pop here, I'm looking for the hook, and I'm looking for us to come up there. Okay, so that's Bitcoin in a nutshell. Now, let's go take a look over at Ethereum. All right. Oh, and again, the reason why I feel like we are going up is because of these guys over here. Remember, those guys are liquidity pockets that I left in there. They need to be knocked out. And the only way they get knocked out is if a candle comes right above this section right over here. And the same thing goes over here. A candle needs to come right above this section to knock these guys out. So as long as those are sitting on the chart, I do feel like they're a target. Now, I'm going to get rid of these. I will leave them for now. I'll adjust that off camera, I guess. Just kind of like clean my chart up a bit. So here is Ethereum from yesterday. And I did mark out exactly where I would, I made this line. I didn't make this line on the video yesterday, but I did say that it would be somewhere in between. Like this is kind of the area that I'm looking for to add on to a long. And if you notice, we did break this 50% range, and we did come a little bit lower, right? And here's the golden pocket right over here. So I said halfway in between, if we do get halfway in between, I'm going to add to my long. And that's exactly what I did. You see this candle right here? This candle touched the 50% line, like this halfway in between the golden pocket and the middle of the range. So I ended up adding onto my long, and my new position is right over here. This is my new entry because I added in, and here's my stop right here. Now, the reason why I chose this to be my stop is because as I look left from the golden pocket here, I'm looking at this candle right here. This set of candles right here would be the takeout zone, and that's what I'm looking at. So it brings me back into this zone here where this was the line in the sand from last week, right? So this would be my stop. It is now moved from here to right over here. And this is about, I believe this is about like a 2% spread. So I'm okay with that, right? So if we do start to go, we need to hook onto this 50% line. We need to hook onto it. And then we need to move up to this golden pocket and then work our way up. So that's where I'm looking for right now. Okay, I am looking for it to turn around. And again, it's starting to feel like it's getting strength in this area. And especially, no lie, this pattern here, this pattern is very appealing to me. This pattern right here is no different than this pattern over here. See this line that's going down? And, you know, see this is the target right there. Notice that we're going down in the same line. If it breaks this, right, then I feel we're going to come back right over here. I call this kind of like an end pattern. I always look for this. It's an end pattern where it's constantly going down. Actually, I'll make that red so you can see that. It's constantly going down. And then there's so much pressure down that it leaves like these liquidity pockets. This is all liquidity that's built there. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of like pops, right? It pops to wipe out all of these guys here and basically, you know, figure out where it's going to go from there. Okay. But yeah, that's what's happened. It feels like it's starting to happen over here. So I do feel like we have more of an upside, right? So we'll see what's going to happen today. Let's just go take a pop over real quick at the Ethereum dominance. Again, it's looking like it's making that same pattern. So I will just kind of like pull this. And here's the deal. If we tap this right here and we find support, then yeah, Ethereum's going to have more strength than Bitcoin. So I'm glad that I added on to my long. We'll definitely see. Again, like it can go the opposite way too. If it drops lower than this, then obviously it's going to be the opposite effect, right? So Bitcoin will have more of a strength. But either way, I'm in two different longs, and I am looking to add on to my long into Bitcoin. I'm looking to add on my long over here. If I don't hit it, that's okay. I'm all right with that. What I did do is Ethereum, my one plan has worked out so far. So I'm still in a long. I added on to my long. And yeah, I'm looking to take profit as soon as we hit, I think, right over here. I think that's my profit taking zone right there. Let's go take a look over at Bitcoin dominance for a second and take a look at what's happening. Okay. Yeah. So we're still stuck in this mud. Yeah, this is definitely feeling like we're still on a downward trajectory, right? Because like we've got, oh, right over here, yeah. Look at this. Yeah, this is the same kind of pattern on the other one. But the difference is that we've got a lower high, and this looks like this is going to be a, no. This is a, yeah, a lower high, no, a higher low. No. Sorry. It's a lower high, and this still is a lower high. Yeah. Could it come down here? Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that. All right. If it pops up a little bit over here and it's kind of like in a range play. This is a range right now. Until it breaks this line, then we would see a change of character here, right? On the Bitcoin dominance. So yeah, I think Ethereum is the play. I do. I feel like Ethereum is the play. Let's take a look at the S&P 500. Now, here's the cool part, right? This is one thing that I haven't shown so far. Check this out. This is the S&P 500. This is the cool thing about charts. I'm going to switch over to the day chart here. Actually, let me turn to the month chart because it's just such a big chart. This line is from 1994, okay? And if you look, it's respecting this channel completely. And look where we are right now. We are at the top of the channel. Look at this. Look at this whole section here. See that? Now, the thing about this is you got to keep in mind that we could still possibly push up. We could break this a little bit, right? We could break it like that. But eventually it comes back to the mean. It always comes back to the mean. Okay? These lines get a little bit funky here. So let me get rid of that. Like sometimes when you switch charts, like the lines stick out. Like they just move a little bit. But this is right. So if you look at how it reacted on the middle of the line, look at how it reacts on on the top of the line, right? We got a little bit of a tap over here. Look, we've got a tap over here, but look where it bounced. It bounced on the middle. It bounced on the middle of the range here. So this is a fun chart to kind of look at the history of it, right? And notice that this is a pretty steep down, right? And then it continued down to the other side. Look at what the time frame is on here. Look at what this is, right? And look at what these are. Like you can basically map out exactly what events have happened during these times. Right? What were these catastrophic events like in 2009, right? In 2020, right? And here it's in 2025, right? You can map these out and see why these charts have moved at the way that they did, right? But it doesn't matter. Like, the event is the event. What matters is these lines. That's what matters. And it also matters how the chart moves. So eventually this chart will come back down to this mean here. Eventually it will. Now, will it go all the way back down to the bottom? I don't know. I'm not really sure, right? But I do know this. We are in the top of the range. This is where we're at. So the first part of it would be, this would be the target. Could it go like this? Yes. That's what I'd be looking for. But definitely mark up your chart like this, the S&P 500. Really cool. It's a really cool chart to have, and just something worth keeping in mind, and like, this is the monthly chart. Look how far down it goes. Look at this. Look at this. 1927. 1927 till now. Pretty neat ride. Oop, there we go. Pretty neat ride. Anyway, that's that. This got a little bit long. I got a little bit too chatty on there, but you know my plans. Let me just zoom in here real quick. Let's zoom in. Let's go to the 12-hour. Let me just iterate what we're looking at here. Sorry. Again, my plan is to add on to a long in this section over here. If it comes down here, down here, this is what I'm looking at. Right over here. If we get down there to this change of character, we tap this change of character area, I will be adding on to my long, right? If not, looking for this kind of like bullish sentiment to get over this 50% line. We'll see what's there. As far as Ethereum goes, Ethereum, I already added on to my long. And we will see what happens from here. Okay, guys. Hope that was helpful. Have a good day.